All right, well, welcome to another episode of the Become a Guitarist Today podcast. Now, today I've got two guests, very important guests. Got a new album coming out, so I'd like to welcome James and Gary. Welcome, guys.
Hey, how are you?
Doug,
Good to be here.
good
Yeah.
to be here. Nice
No,
to see you.
it's really nice to meet you guys, and again, like we just spoke about before, to bring you both in person together.
Nicely
Yeah, I
done.
did. 'Cause for the benefit of anybody watching it, this is actually the first time James and I have seen each other
In
Yeah.
person.
and spoken together. And I mean, I didn't even know what he looked like. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's all good.
Yeah.
But I find that quite amazing because I mean, you listen to the album, it just sounds like you guys are in the room together, jam
Great.
recording.
What was the objective? That was the objective. Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
definitely. Yeah, you would know for sure. So, can you tell us a little bit about this new album, A Soul in Time, or even about yourselves first, maybe?
Well, I can tell you how it was conceived, and then as we move forward, Gary's welcome to chime in.
Yep.
But Dean Brown, who was a legendary guitarist, played with Billy Cobham. He's played with Gary back in the day, and we had finished recording my last album, which was Groove and Smooth. It was kind of a contemporary jazz band under a brand I created called Ghost Jazz Trio, so that I could do corporate events and kind of get a working band going. Originally, that was my goal, and the band took off. It ended up getting nominated 4 years in a row for Best Jazz Album of the Year. All debuted in the top 100, did really well. So on the fourth album, I decided to get a producer and have someone produce it other than me. And I went to speak with the engineer that I recorded the previous albums with, Alan Sanderson, and out of San Diego. And he said, "Yeah, I've been working with this guy on some projects. I think he's familiar with the kind of producing." I said, "Oh, great." He says, "Dean Brown." And to be honest, I really hadn't heard of Dean Brown. He brought him up on Wikipedia, and I said, "Oh, he's on Wikipedia, I guess." Because I listened to jazz fusion more in the '70s, kind of into the '80s, and then I think it kind of morphed into something else, and I kind of faded away from it. So yeah, so then I had a meeting with Dean, and he called me, and we met at a hotel lobby, and I went over what I wanted to do. We ended up recording the album. After the first session, when we went in to record that night, he called me and says, "James, I'm kind of used to producing like albums for hobbyists, people that do it, as a side gig or whatever. But you guys are really good." He goes, "Would you mind if I played on the album?" And I'm like, "Of course." So the next session, he basically played all the rhythm guitar in the whole album, and he does some nice soloing acoustic guitar. So we did that whole album. It came out in March 2023. And then fast forward a couple months later, we had been texting back and forth almost on a daily basis because we were both really into tennis. And we would talk about the album, how it was doing. And then he asked me about some songs he had heard me playing while they were editing one day, and I told him there's some fusion songs that I have written, and he said, "Send them to me." So I sent him the songs, sent him more than the ones that we did on the album, about 8 of them. And he said, "Man, they're really beautiful. I should do an album." And I said, if you want to produce it," and he said, "Yeah." So that's how it started. He was really excited about the music. He says it's got that '70s feel. I want to, just put out something really raw and kind of inspirational in that sense. And I said, "Great. Who do you want to be on the album?" And he said, "Well, there's only 2 people I can think of that could pull this off, and that's Gary Husband and Hadrian Farad." And I know who both of them are. I was like, "Oh, great. Well, give them a call. Let me know if they agree to it." And then they agreed to it, and we started the process. And Dean started composing, doing the melodies and charting the stuff. And he was thankful that he only had to chart it for Gary, because Hadrian and I don't read. I play by ear, and so does Hadrian. So he
Really?
charted Go ahead.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. So he
All the time
charted.
I worked with him, he was pretending, right? Wow.
So, yeah, so that made it easy for Dean, and then Dean uh, again charted the stuff. He did mock recordings. It's kind of like a script they would do for a movie. And basically, he wanted to do the basic stripped down drums, as he could, and bass, because we're not giving the mock to session musicians. We're giving it to Gary Husband, who's got his own voice, his own sound, his own palette. Hadrian Farad, he wants them to do, interpret it and do what they want with it. So, and that's what happened. So a bulk of the responsibility really went to Gary, because Gary, he just had these bare bones kind of vague, mock-up, and he laid down the drum tracks, and then we took those, mixed those, and then sent them to Hadrian, and Hadrian would do his bass, and then we'd send those to drums and bass mixed to Gary, and then Gary would do his keyboards. And then when that was all done and being mixed, then I would do my guitar parts. And the guitar rhythms that we used were from the mock-ups. I didn't redo any guitar. I was going to, but Dean had said, because I said, don't worry if I screw it up. He goes, look at James. He goes, and this is one thing I liked about Dean. If I hit a string and accidentally hit my thumb on it and it twanged while I was going to another string, I would go, oh, let me redo that. He'd go, no, I love that. He liked just the raw, real stuff.
Yeah.
So he says, they're going to be telling their story and playing to what you're doing on the mock-up. So if you do it separately, that's twice as much work for you to play to them, and it may not sound organic. So I just did it, sat there in a chair in front of Dean and just played, and then he goes, yeah, we'll use that, and send it out. So during the process of doing all this, Dean had passed away. He had, in August of last year, he would call me and says, look, man, I'm tired. I know I said I'd have this song done, but it's going to take me a while. I said, don't worry about it. Take it easy. But it meant that much to him. And on the way there, he said, James, I just, promise me that you finish this album, whatever happens. He goes, this album is dear to me. He goes, I just, I have this, I've been wanting to record an album for 6 years and I haven't. And I want this to be that album if I'm not able to do one. So promise me. And I said, absolutely, and I'll let the guys know. And they were on board. But that's kind of how it all happened. And then when it came to the final mixing and editing, Alan and I weren't up to snuff, because I haven't had that much experience. Gary's had decades of doing this and has played, in studios all over the world, I'm sure. So he agreed to take over the responsibility, basically, that Dean had. And, besides doing all the playing and all that, and he took it over and did a great job. So that's kind of it in a nutshell up to that point. But Gary can take it from there. I mean, he basically got two of the best engineers in the UK, George and another mate of his, and made it happen. So
yeah, well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with the drum tracks, first of all, when you got them, Gary, were they? Did you have like a simple drum track on the pre-recorded demos, or was it just like a click track?
Well, as James said, really, it was just kind of bare bones, guitar ops, and and a sort of programmed bass. Was it at that point, as some kind of bass programming, and then and I even forget if there was any percussion on there or not. But
No,
but the
no
one thing,
percussion.
nothing, no, nothing.
Yeah.
But
Program drums.
the thing, I mean, I had the benefit. Number one, I knew Dean and loved him, and he was a friend and everything. So we were very familiar with each other, so we could break through very quickly to the important details and aspects of uh, what really needed to take place. So I was able to discern from him um, a lot of insight for each track um, in respect of the atmosphere, the mood. And of course, by the demos, I could tell how long it was going to be. And what all this kind of points to really is if the musician can cultivate the experience really, and you only really get this from I think being in playing situations, as James, you will, I'm sure, back up, um, uh, and really being familiar with the process of playing with people, and you start listening to music or new music very much from that perspective, and the benefit of that experience gives you um, the insight really to be able to um, realize how long a solo is going to be, how long you've got for it to grow, what you might imagine from the musicians, how you might imagine the bass playing, how you might imagine the thing as a whole. And that's what the experience gives you, the ability to do that. And a result of that experience, it's been many years of doing those. And in fact, during lockdown, we all got used to working like that for a little while.
Yeah, that's right.
So, you know, so I was able to actually, the drums were done in one day.
Wow.
8 hours, I think you did, or 7 hours, 8
Really?
hours.
Well,
Yeah.
whatever.
In fact, I called the engineer, unbeknownst to Gary, to find out because I wanted to make sure that he, compensates wise that he was, because he put in a full day. I can't believe he did all that in one day. And you used a set, you even reconfigured your drum set, or like you moved a tom on the left to the.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did something different for this, something I'd never done before, just in terms of the drum rig, and really tried to give it something that was unique to that particular occasion, and uh, so eventful that it was, and I really want to do a good job for Dean. And among the very last emails I had from him, he expressed his happiness with the mood, just about everything about the way that the drums worked out. So he was approving of those. I knew he heard the drum tracks because I got great feedback from those, and this is
Yeah.
really what I depended on. If he
What-
said he didn't, he didn't beat around the. If there was a beef
Oh,
that
yeah.
he had with anything, he'd say, "Eh, but hang on."
One of his
Yeah.
favorite parts that he played over and over for me when we were at the studios, when you were doing your solo, and it's just before On the Edge, on the first song, and you do that before you go, you hit it tight, bump, 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 and you do this triple thing where you go on the snare, and he goes, "Oh, I love that," and we played it back, and the engineer, he had him keep playing it back over and over and over. And he turned around and looked at me because I was sitting behind him. He goes, "Don't you just love that?" I go, I said, "The whole thing sounds great to me," but he was, he would get excited about one thing, he loved the drumming on that.
Yeah,
So,
he would get so childlike and beautiful about that's the way music was for him. And it kept him young, and so picking up, I knew that he was happy with the drum charts. I'm not sure how much of the keyboard passes he actually got to hear, because I think that more than ever we had to really cultivate the joy and the true spirit of music in particular his vision for what this album was about. And he wrote a very long, detailed album sort of note to me about the mood and atmosphere that it should really be, and it should be like kicking butt and leaving blood on the floor.
Yeah.
And I got him, you know, it was fine. It was natural that he'd kind of speak that way. So while he was here, he was happy. And I believe, I think those lovely spirits are around us, you know, not wishing to take this anywhere else, but I think they're
Absolutely.
around. And I think that,
agree.
and I think that if, and I think that in view of the fact he's around, or I believe he's around, I know that he's happy with that, because he had our all in this project. We really just gave it everything. I mean, the keyboards, after the drums, the keyboards took a little longer because I was able to really give it time, let it settle, experiment with different sounds and stuff as background sounds, harmony sounds, and indeed solo sounds, and just see what came up in terms of what they suggested. So I was able to take my time more with that. Adrian took the songs and just played like a dream in his inimitable way, and then it was over to James to come on board and complete his input with his fabulous solos, you know. And at every stage it was bringing the project more and more to life, you know, and it was making us see the joy in the progression of this project, and it was very, very special experience for me.
And when I did do the guitar parts, or rather when I went in, I kind of envisioned him sitting in front of me, because when I had done the other album, he would be on his phone and I would solo, and he goes, again, like that. And he was just like, all right, I can work with that, you know.
Yeah.
And then he was a taskmaster. So when I went in there, he had told me, he goes, James, you need to get learn some new lexicons. You need to, and when you solo, I want it to flow and I want it to be melodic. I want you to just, you know, go in there, crank up your amp. I don't want any effects on there. I just want you to go in and just rip. And it just, you know, so when I went in, I told the engineer that, I said, I'm just going to go for it, you know. And it's funny because the first solo on the first song, On the Edge, that solo is the first take. We did other takes, but I don't know what it was. It was just because I had talked myself in. He says, and then and Dina told me, when I walk in, practice with those songs, but when you walk in, don't play what you practice. Just be in the moment, listen to those guys, play with them as if you're in the room with them. And that's what I did. And I think it came across that way. You know, so he is there in spirit, because he was there the whole time. And I still think about him nightly. I'll think, Dean, we did this with the album. This is happening with you know, I talk to him still, you know, because I talk to him on a daily basis. It's hard for me to get out through my head that he's not here anymore, you know? So,
yeah. But I think it's amazing how you guys, you know, got this all finished. You know, a lot of people might have gave up, you know, after someone passing, but you know, it's like you respected his wishes of completing it and getting out there, and the outcome is just amazing. So, congratulations to both of you, really.
Oh, I'm glad you feel it.
Yeah, no, definitely, and I'm sure he'll be very proud of it.
yeah,
Yes.
no, it turned out really well.
I did.
Again, just the body of work, sounds like we're playing together. It was like the perfect storm. I think Dean knew, knowing all three of us, that the three different musically, personality wise, it would all work. I mean, he did tell me, he goes, you know, Hadrian, I'm not going to tell him anything because I don't need to. He always knows what to do. He's kind of a wild card, you know. You just send him the tracks and he's going to know. And he did. He listened to Gary's piano solo on A Feather's Touch and he played over it. And then he listened to the soloing on Samba Sky and he redid his tracks for that. And he just, his phrasing, it's like he's talking to you. It's not just a groove. So much music today is fusion music, even with like Simon Phillips band, the Protocol and things like that. They're just very groove oriented, and they do a lot of fast little quick things, and then they solo and that. But this song has such a symphonic orchestral type feel to it. Takes you, like when he comes in on his solo on The Edge, he drops in with this cascading waterfall of notes, synthesized notes that just take you, and all of a sudden you close your eyes and you're on a journey, And a lot of these descriptions I'm using are people that have contacted me through Facebook and other social media, and they've told me that, like, it just one guy said it just washes over you. It's like,
Yeah.
and then I had an engineer tell me it's one of the best recordings he's ever heard. And not just genre, but it's just like the way it's all mixed. And then Gary, I guess, he used an old 70s board, him and George Murphy, that have been retooled to be compatible with today's recording process. And they spent, hours, meticulous hours putting this all together. So
Yeah, it's pretty much Pro Tools and a really old MCI board. Yeah, I think it was bought from one of the old studios.
Island Studio, maybe.
Island. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you're right. And I heard from the proprietor of the studio, who used to maintain that board ever since 1979, the studio opened. He would know every single component on that board, and it was just awesome to see an old style craftsman like that, taking care of his old baby. And apparently, No Woman, No Cry was recorded on that board, as well as countless other very notable songs and pieces of music. But I think that just was to really honor it was really honoring the brief, because of this whole project in a way has got a leaning back to the old 70s fusion days, and it seemed appropriate that a more dynamic sort of non-digital kind of sound really was real big and open, where it was the order of the day really for this. And particularly when we started, because anything you run through a desk like that was and the accompanying amazing reverbs and stuff that they have in that studio, all very antique components everywhere.
What's funny you mentioned about the dynamics, because I actually wrote down here, before I did know that you recorded in separate places. The dynamics on this album, the way it goes, the soft and loud, and it just feels like we're good together, playing. So it's incredible.
Well, and you not to blow my own trumpet, but in a way, kind of, when you get a drummer, particularly a drummer who's taken the reins first, who's the first one in there really to start laying down exactly how it's going to go, and nobody can really argue with it from there. Such is the gift of being a drummer in some ways, but it takes knowing what you're doing and having a great passion for what you're doing. And I think if you're sincere about it, I was able to almost orchestrate the way that solos would go, and maybe the dynamic would even dip before coming back in strong, and things like that, just subtle musical effects that you could kind of anticipate, given the knowledge of how long any particular section would last. So you could really operate with some authority, as a drummer should, really. But also true to that period, there's a I mean, the drums are big and open, and the guitar is just wailing, And I was just delighted to take that to George Murphy at East Coast Studios, where I've worked a lot in West London, um, and had this great engineer, who I've been working with on at least 9 projects now, in conjunction with the mastering engineer Andrew Tulloch, who's people travel far and wide to get him to work on to do the finishing on their records. So very happy to be given the opportunity and the luxury of being able to enlist people like that. Yeah, for sure. Because this album really deserves it, and it's really benefited from it, in my
And then
opinion.
also speaking to his drums, I when I play, when I write songs, rhythm is my thing. That's the thing I've listened to. And I like, there's a song on Feather's Touch. Originally, when I come in with the chords and I was playing it, I was hearing a different beat, and he did this just like a downbeat the whole time. And I was like, oh, okay. And then so that's the cool thing is about the drums, is that I had to kind of listen to it and learn, okay, that's the story. Oh, okay. And then you follow that. And he did orchestrate the whole thing. It's like when I'm soloing, and you'll hear that I actually play off his piano a lot too, because I play by ear, and I've trained myself through the years. And by the way, this is the first time in 5 years that I've played a solid body, because I've been playing the other genre for so long. So I actually bought a guitar, a solid body, got all the gear, and had a few months to acclimate myself to it. And ever since then, that's all I've been playing, because it got my juices going again back into the genre. But again, the drums along with the keyboards, the way he orchestrated it, it was like it's again, it goes somewhere. You could, going into my first guitar solo on the Edge, the way he does this roll on the toms just before I come in, I knew how I had to come in because of the way he's doing it. I had no option. If I came any other way, it would have ruined that. So having Gary do what he did with the drums and Hadrian too, it was laid out for me. It was like a gift. Okay, here it is. Do it. And that's, you can't ask for more than that as a guitar player.
Yeah. So I mean, at the moment, yeah, you got your songs down and fantastic songwriting, and Gary, your incredible drumming and keyboards. Like I saw your interview with Chick Corea, the way he said, I've never seen anyone in the world play 2 instruments, like really different instruments, play it so well. It really is incredible. So
Yeah, I paid him to say things like that.
Gary was the Swiss Army knife on this album.
But then on the top of this, then you have Hadrian, his bass playing. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. And he's very busy touring all the time. He's what they call kind of like John Scofield, with a road rat, basically. He's always on the road. And he did his recording, I think, basically in his hotel rooms.
Oh, wow.
I think he might have been back home at one point. I think it was during maybe the holidays, but
yeah,
he just knows what to do. Again, he's got a great ear, and if you listen to it, it's the thing I like about this album is you can listen to it as a whole, but you can take, and a fan also said this, and I agree with it. You can listen to the whole album, just listen to the bass, or you could just listen to the keyboards or the synthesizer or the drums or the guitar, pick, the rhythm guitar or the lead. And it's like, there's all these like different layers. It's like a bunch of different albums in one album. So you don't have, it's not just, again, not just a monotonous groove with some notes over it. It's got so much to it. I never get tired of listening to it. And, I always hear something new. And then again, the way Gary hits these floor toms and his kick drum at the same time, he'll just do this phrase for one bar. and Hadrian will go from a high note down to two low notes, just hits it right with them and lets it ring with what Gary's doing. It's almost like it's written, it's just amazing.
Yeah, that's why I highly recommend anyone watching this. You're going to have to hear this album to believe what we're talking about, because I still don't believe it. I think you guys are in the same group, so no, but it really is. It's amazing that, like you're just saying, with the way the bass and the drums locking together, and those little parts, yeah, so cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're all really happy about it.
And
I
then
think.
you have on sax, you have Eric. He's amazing
Yes.
sax player as well. On
Oh yeah, yeah.
song the
And the
end.
the backstory on that real quick is Dean and I were driving in the car the last time driving to the studio, and he looked over at me, and we're just getting on the 5, and he said, I said, I know you wanted me to solo on this song, but I had talked about it before. I said, I really hear sax on it. I just do. And he said, well, and we had talked about it before, and he said, and I'd said I wanted sax, maybe even marimbas, it just had that feel to me. And he said, well, Eric, he had just played with Eric up north, and he says, Eric Marienthal would be great on this song. And he said, but I don't want to even talk to him about it until it's done. And then we can just, give it to him. And I said, yeah, I mean, I don't have to solo on every song. I'd really like to have him showcase. And that's what happened. And I contacted, I was actually at the hospital the last time I saw Dean, and I talked to Eric on the phone about starting a GoFundMe page, because he was in Japan at the time, and I said, he said, well, I knew he was getting bad, but I didn't know it was getting that bad, if I should do it. I said, yeah, it's time. So they set up a GoFundMe, and then a couple of weeks later, I said, Dean really wanted you to be on this song. He said this would be the perfect song for you, and he said, yeah, it sounds great. I mean, send it over. And I did. He did it at his home studio and in one day, and sent it back. And he sent like little sections that we can move around and use however we wanted. So I set him up the way I liked them in the song. And then he did the one solo. And then for the other sections, he gave me like 3, I think, different ones, and I just positioned them, more. The last one is the Resolve. And then we did a radio edit too. But yeah, Eric was just like James. He goes, I'm going to play my heart out. Dean's going to be in my mind when I do this, in my heart. And because they were close friends, and
Yeah.
he did an amazing solo. I mean, he just blows on that thing. I mean, it just makes the hair on your arms stand up,
It does.
And then the percussionist, he also had recommended for Samba Sky, because I said I wanted percussion. And a lot of people that hear the album won't know this, but I took out a lot of my guitar parts where Gary was playing like his 2 synthesizer solos over the bridges, even though Dean really liked that kind of heavy metalish thing I was doing. It's just what he was doing on the keyboards. I just pulling my guitar out just created so much space that you could really, it gave it another dimension instead of just this heaviness the whole time. And then when it went back to the heaviness, it was a nice release. And then and a couple songs I took out parts just because I really wanted the sound to be, I wanted more space, and it's not, to me, it was almost the original guitar parts were just to play for them, to show them what the song's supposed to be. And then I can take out and fudge around whatever I want after I hear what they do. So, so to me, I mean, Gary really set the mood for the album. If you listen to it, I think you'll agree.
kind of nice. you you choose to think about it that way, but it's just it's the drummer, it's the
Yeah, it's a
drummer.
collaboration.
And it's all very well, because I've done it myself, like going back over time and thinking, this is a little bit superfluous, this stuff I'm doing on the second synth while I'm doing this, like you, James, I think of a way, it could really benefit from a little more air, a little more space for it to exist more fully. But it's not so easy to do that with drums. I mean, once you've done it, you've done it, when you're committed, you're committed.
But
So
your drums have so much space to them. You fluctuate in and out so much. It's not like a constant barrage of, again, I'm not comparing, but some drummers say even old Cobham, on the double kick and Simon Phillips and Virgil Donati, they have that constant grind. You have such a finesse and color palette that you can go into and bring to one song. It's I really think this album really brought out a lot of different dimensions of your playing. I've heard a lot of your recordings and stuff, and this album, your drumming on here has such a variety I've never heard.
Yeah.
So
wow.
I think because you had so much freedom,
Yeah. I was awarded that. But I felt it. I just felt it from Dean, and I felt once you're awarded with a kind of trust from somebody of that stature, you go, yeah, and the determination is all systems go into making them happy through it, even if it's through various ways of approaching things that they didn't even consider. That they'd find out another way, or a way that was perhaps superior, or at least alternatively interesting to what they had come up with first of all. And it was just such a pleasure to get that approval from Dean on this. So it just makes it all the more special.
Plus, I'm a great songwriter. What can I say?
Oh yeah, that too.
Yeah. I wanted this album to have that kind of that kind of Mahavishnu-ish, Jean-Luc Ponty, and David Sancious, who I used to listen to as a teen. I used to love Forest of Feelings album, the bigness of it. I wanted it to have that grandiose feel. And there was so much, when I was a teen, I was listening, my friends were listening to The Who and Led Zeppelin and Grand Funk Railroad, and I was listening to CTI records and Return to Forever and Crosswinds by Cobham when he came out with his album. And it was like when the Intermatting Flame came out, or Birds of Fire, you went home with the record and you just put it on and sat with your other guitar player friends and just, oh my God, I got to play this kind of music. And then I was fortunate enough to take lessons from Bill Connors. So that kind of even fueled it more. And I remember my first visit to Bill, because I was really into McLaughlin at that time. I had a white Les Paul. It was a gold top and I had it painted white. And I used to wear white Indian shirt and pants. And Sri Chinmoy was my guru. I was initiated. I used to meditate with Carlos Santana and his wife at the time. And I was into that whole thing because McLaughlin was, and I was a McLaughlin fan, I was a teen, I was like, yeah. So I used to learn his songs off the record, Birds of Fire, 11-5, I think it was, and all those, and we would play them. And so when I went up to take lessons from Connors, I was wearing that. And he goes, oh, great, another McLaughlin clone. He goes, next time you come for your next lesson, he goes, just wear jeans and a t-shirt, bring your guitar. And, but I always loved that music, It just always did. And I always played it up till about 2017. But I was just playing clubs with it and doing my own thing because it wasn't popular. And then when I changed, but it was nice to be able to go back to what I love, that kind of music, and to be able to, play songs. One song I wrote, back in those days, and we did it now, and it worked, so
Was it Summer Sky?
yes.
I was going to say that's got that influence in it. I can hear it.
Uh, I wrote that in the 90s.
Oh well.
Not exactly like that, but a lot of it like that.
Yeah, yeah. That was a great tune. It just reminded me of like El Di Meola, that type of thing, those type of riffs.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's Dean got it, Gary gets it. When people hear it, Andy Edwards, who just did a review, he gets the music, and when people get it, that's all you want. You want people to get they understand what we're doing. It's not just a record with some songs. We're really trying to do something. Dean and I were, when we talk about the album, it was always like, because he had a lot of students, guitar students, and he would talk about how great they were and stuff. And, he would say, but the thing is, they don't have that thing on the edge. Like when he would play, he looked like he was possessed, like Andy Edwards said, he was like in the moment. And that's what this album was supposed to be. All of us just in the moment, playing our hearts out, leaving blood on the floor, just, pants on fire, whatever. And it to me, that happened, and I think that's why people enjoy it. It's not even just the songs and how it's played. It's just that vibe, I think,
Yeah.
I want to believe that anyway.
No, it's true.
Oh, it's the truth. It's the truth. Yeah. And what you bring to it, James, I mean, the guitar voice, when you talk about a lot of the people that you were into back in the day and stuff, I can hear all those people, but I can also, but the center of it all is you. And I can hear just like I can hear all my influences. They're all alive and well in me. The one's gone and the one's still here. And I'm overjoyed with that because it's just the best lessons I ever could have had. Like spending a week at Ronnie Scott's, catching the Late Show by Elvin Jones, every single late show, and I was just in a complete trance watching that guy. And that did something, that, and it wasn't just a once only thing. It was like something that was going to stay with me my whole life.
It feeds your soul,
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when you get all that food, like for me, running Bill Connors, being fortunate to hang out with him, and we ended up going to Carmel, my brothers, for a weekend, the Classical Guitar Festival, and he cooked dinner for us and hung out, and being able to hang out with Carlos Santana and his wife, and being into and opening up for Holdsworth in 2012, which was a big deal for me, and just having those fringe things happen to me were all little signs that I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. And in fact, when I opened for Holdsworth at Brick by Brick in San Diego, he usually didn't have bands open for him. He would just play. And he was on the phone, I guess, with the club owner, and he heard my CD I just did in the background and asked, and it was like a fusion type CD. And he asked the owner who it was. He said, "Oh, it's a local band. My girlfriend's brother's in it." And he said, "Well, would they want to open for us?" And that's how we got to open. If I hadn't talked to him on the phone, or he hadn't talked to him on the phone, and my CD wasn't playing at that exact time, all these little magic things happen along in your life along the way. And to me, this is another one of those, being able to play with Gary and Hadrian and running into Dean, and just the whole universal, the thing. I mean, it just, it was very uplifting for me, and you know, it made my playing rise to another level, me as a person spiritually, as a person, you know. So
You've definitely done a great job. I mean, like I
I'm
said,
thankful.
between your songwriting, your guitar playing, Gary, your drumming and amazing keyboard playing, which we don't really talk about much about, but it's just the way this all comes together. It's a great album, and
Thanks.
everyone's just going to
Thanks.
really enjoy it, I'd say. So, where's the best place for people to get this? I know it's going to be like streaming, but can they buy like hard copies as well?
Yeah, you can go to physical copy. You can go to Bandcamp and just type in Morgan Hadrian Farad, Soul in Time. It'll pop up. You can go to the Ghost Jazz Trio band.com and go into the Ghost store. It's you can get the digital copy there. And I don't know if it's going to be on Amazon, but Bandcamp. And then I think people are mostly going to stream it. And some people still want CDs. So, but the album's doing well. I mean, the single's already doing well. We have a radio version. It's on the Smooth Jazz circuit stations. It's already, you know, climbing the charts, which is nice. I like it because it's exposing an album, a body of work to an audience that wouldn't normally hear it. And having Eric Marienthal, who's part of that smooth jazz genre, doing cruises and other things, it's kind of a segue into that. So there's a lot of marketing that I've been doing on the back end to get this album noticed and get it in a lot of different platforms, because it deserves to be heard, not just by the obscure jazz fusion aficionados, but it's an album that I think that anyone would enjoy. And even Ruth Brown, who heard it when I went by and talked to her one day, and she said that thing she liked about it was that it's the kind of music that people that wouldn't normally listen to this kind of music would actually enjoy, because it's so pleasing to the ear. It's palatable, you know.
Yeah.
So,
You know, it's a pleasure for us that you gave us airtime on this, because it's a very important album, both artistically and personally to us. So it's been very rewarding to speak with you about it today.
Oh, thank you. And hopefully we'll...
Yeah. And Adam, I really appreciate you doing this on such quick notice and everything. You know, you just have a great channel, very positive. All the stuff that you do in Melbourne with the music and all the production stuff you do. I've done a little research. It's great to see you doing all that.
Yeah, no, thank you. But yeah, hopefully we'll catch up again later. Yeah, if you've got anything else coming out, whatever, please let me know.
Well, I have all those other songs that we didn't do them because I couldn't afford to do them. They weren't in the budget. So who knows? Gary and I he'll have to produce it though. We'll have to do another album maybe.
That'd be great.
See how well
Soul
this
in
one
Time, Soul in Time Volume 2.
That's it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
On the other side. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, Gary, good to meet you.
You too, sir. What did you say your name was?
He's Adam. I'm James. You're Gary. No more wine for him.
Fine. Hey, man, thank you so much for doing this.
All right.
No problem.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
See you guys real soon. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.